Arsenal are back in Premier League action this weekend as they take on Brentford at the Emirates, of course, with the opportunity to go top of the table ahead of Liverpool's game against Manchester City on Sunday. It really is getting into that business end of the season. This is the Arsenal Preview Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is our Arsenal preview series, where we look ahead to the next Arsenal fixture, which, as I mentioned, is Arsenal against Brentford. And as always, for our preview shows, we're joined by some of the members from the Discord server. Today, I'm joined by Bryce. How you doing, Bryce? You good, Joel?
Doing well. How are you, Tom?
Not bad. Tell me about the hat. It looks rather unique.
Yep. It's a vintage Arsenal hat. I found it on the internet, paid $45 for it.
Oh, I hope it's real.
I hope so too. I don't think it is.
You know, if anything bought via Arsenal through third parties, I could never, ever say is the right way to do it. But if you like it, go for it, man. I think
it's fun.
It looks good, bro. I'm also joined by Jordan. How you doing, mate?
What's going on, guys? I was looking for my TGT hat, actually, but I could not find it.
Really?
Today, so I'll get it ready for next week.
One of the few that got shipped all the way out to the States. Well, talk us through yours. What does the N stand for?
Oh, this is just a fitness company called N1, not my company. Yeah,
far less exciting. Less exciting, but it looks good all the same. I wish I'd worn a hat now. I suppose I could, but I'm going out this evening and I don't want to crush the barnet. But good morning, good afternoon, good evening to those joining us live in the chat box. Thank you so much for doing so. Really appreciate your time. A US Arsenal fan joining up as a brand new member who could be joining us on one of our future preview shows, which is fantastic to see as well. If you would like to, like the boys are here joining us for our preview shows, just become an expert or a TGT ambassador and join our Discord server, and you can get the opportunity to come on the show. We kick off, Bryce, with the only place we really can start when you talk about Brentford, and that's Ivan Toney. There's a lot of narrative surrounding Ivan Toney, of course. Are you worried about him on Saturday? Do you think he's going to be extra motivated to get a goal against us?
No.
No,
I don't. And honestly, I don't really think too much of the Ivan Toney hype to begin with. Like, he's good. Yeah, he's a great striker. He's pretty solid for the Prem. I wouldn't want him at Arsenal though. So, I'm not too worried. I mean, if Saliba can put Haaland in his pocket, I'm not too worried about Toney.
Well, it's high praise of Saliba, less so of Toney. Jordan, where do you stand on the whole Ivan Toney situation?
As far as him playing us, I can't say that I don't have him burned into my memory a little bit. As far as, I would say bullying might be a strong word, but he played well. He's played well against us, and he's played well against Saliba. And he had, the first time I saw that matchup, given me oh man, I've never seen that sort of physical level go up against Saliba. So it's not that I'm worried. I think that it's something they can handle for sure. But I do think of him, again, not as somebody I want at Arsenal, but when I see the name on the team sheet, I'm definitely thinking, okay, we're ready for, Gabriel and Saliba better be ready for a battle. But I'm certainly probably more worried about Mbeumo. I think he's just like complete class, and on the counter attack, it's just deadly.
Yeah, there was rumors about he might be back for this game. He has been out injured recently, so potentially he may or may not be available. We're still waiting, I think, for confirmation on that. Toney, of course, we're still waiting to hear from Thomas Frank on that. Ben Dinnery on Twitter, I'm just looking through social media now. It says, sidelined since early December due to an ankle ligament injury. Thomas Frank was hopeful of a return after the international break, but he looks to be progressing really well. He's doing some images of training. So he could be involved in Saturday's game. I guess we will have to wait and see. Toney as well, we're still waiting for an update on him. Thomas Frank will be speaking tomorrow. Speaking of fitness updates, Mikel Arteta did indeed address the media this afternoon and provided some updates on Saka and Martinelli. Martinelli, of course, came off, Bryce, against Sheffield United. Didn't look... I mean, when you see a player needing to be carried off the field, you're thinking, oh dear, he's going to be out for an extra period. But he did speak quite accurately about how they were hopeful of both of those two being available. Neither were pictured, by the way, in any of the training images. That doesn't mean they didn't train, of course, because Arsenal can be a bit cheeky with the ones they do and don't release. But how do you feel after hearing what Arteta said?
I feel more optimistic. I mean, I had to be carried off the field on Tuesday, but I'll play it next week. So
what did you do?
it was just a really bad cramp.
Oh, right. Fair. Slightly different.
Yeah, a little bit. But anyways, of course, I'm always worried about their fitness, especially Saka, because Trossard, we don't really have a whole lot of cover on the right side. I guess you could throw Reece Nelson. We saw Fabio Vieira there last week, but that it's a significant drop in quality from Saka to our next person. Martinelli, Trossard's been tearing it up. So if we need to give Martinelli a week off to get there for Porto, I say do it. If he's not ready, if he's not there, put in Trossard, and then you can kind of rearrange your lineups accordingly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that we have depth, of course, now, Jordan. Trossard's there. You've got Fabio Vieira coming back, who, of course, came on for Saka at the weekend. I know he's nowhere close to the level of contributions of Saka, but Nelson as well, Smith Rowe, of course. We have now depth in the squad, but if we were to lose Martinelli and Saka for this game, say they weren't available hypothetically, how much of a worry would that be for you going into it?
It's not a worry that the lineup that Mikel would put out that I wouldn't have faith that they can do a good job. It would be that I think we'd have to extend into players that I would rather give some rest to. And so that would make me fall on the side of like, well, maybe Jesus has got to get out there. Or, I'm torn between putting out players that I wish got a little bit more rest, people coming back from injury, Vieira, Partey, Jesus, somebody's going to have to start, or sitting all those guys and reaching a little bit deeper down the bench for an ESR, for a Reece. And both of those come with some trepidation of, okay, do I want to start our best players that give us a better chance to win, but they're just coming back from injury, or do I want to give them the rest that they really need, but make a sacrifice in terms of quality? And again, it's so much harder now when we are going for a title and every point matters. If you're in a top 4 race and you're kind of comfortable, and then I go ESR, then I go with, leaving Jesus, Partey, Vieira, don't give them 90 minutes. Don't push them before they're ready. But it's at the top here. Every single point matters. And so I really am curious of what Mikel will do.
Yeah, and I think you summed it up well. It's Jesus in the wide area. He trained today and has been training this week, despite there being suggestions that he had maybe a little bit of an issue at the end of the game against Sheffield United. It would make sense for him to play in that wide area. And then, of course, Trossard to play on the other side. We didn't have both of Saka and Martinelli, at least from the start. Martinelli came on in the game against City, and we started with Nketiah, Jesus, and Trossard in the front three. And we won against the champions 1-0 in that match, despite not having Saka for the entire game and Martinelli only for the second half. So there is depth, competent depth, and depth that can and has been proven to be effective. But, of course, we would rather have them. Now, Bryce, I guess, again, sticking with kind of team decisions, we've got a massive game just days after this against Porto. So how does Arteta go about managing his team, the fitness, the selections, knowing that massive game is on the horizon?
Great question. I think that number one priority, or not necessarily priority, but first step in maintaining fitness is not starting Jorginho today. He's going to be critical against Porto. And I think that if we have Jorginho in the lineup, starting in the lineup against Porto, it's going to be his experience is going to make that game, even though we're at the Emirates, just so much more comfortable. It's going to kind of bring that nice, relaxed feeling. And then second thing is, if we're up by 2 or 3, we got to start getting key players off. Like giving Smith Rowe some minutes. I advocate for Smith Rowe, but I'm not always the biggest fan. I think that there is a significant drop off from Saka, Martinelli to Smith Rowe. But if we're up by 2 or 3 and it's the 60th minute, get him off. Get Saka off, get Martinelli off, and trust in Smith Rowe, trust in Vieira, trust in Trossard if he's not already starting, which I have a feeling he might start. And but you just have to put some trust into our guys.
I guess the one team we haven't talked about other than individuals, though, Jordan, is Brentford, who are missing the majority of their defense, there's no Aaron Hickey, there's no Rico Henry, there's no Ben Mee, there's no Ethan Pinnock, unless there's some drastic changes in these next couple of days. And Arsenal are on some goal-scoring form that rivals the best teams in the league's history at the moment. So is it easy to kind of put those two together and assume that we're going to see another big scoreline?
I'm never going to be the person, even up against a Sheffield United with absolutely abysmal statistics. I feeling, I was Thierry Henry on Sky Sports, was still feeling a little worried. I'm definitely not going into that with that mindset. I'm happy that that's the case. And I think that bodes well for us. And I think it might allow for something like Bryce said, where maybe we go up a couple goals early and we can rest some players, or the opposite, where maybe we can rotate and still win. And I think Bryce said it well, where the non-negotiable for me is a fresh Jorginho on Tuesday. And so whatever you got to do to make that happen, you make it happen. The issue with the subs for me is we don't have a sub that comes in and is either a hard off the ball player in the front half of the pitch, or a defensive minded player anywhere on the pitch. Really, I mean, we have ESR, Reese, Vieira, even Partey is not. I mean, he's in more of like a defensive position, let's say, but not having Timber and Tomiyasu to come off the bench and be the kind of player, like when we are leading in a game, we don't really have anybody who I feel really I'm super trustworthy to come off the bench and defensively make me feel like, yeah, we're not going to be broken down. The subs we have, we need to be the best defense is a good offense sort of substitute team, where it's like, well, we're going to bring some players off the bench to keep control of the game as our form of defense. And that gives me a little bit of not nerves, but bringing ESR off the bench and then watching, I'm not going to pick on him. I don't mean to pick on him, but him maybe lose his man and then Joe Willock go in and score gives me that sort of feeling of like, ooh, I want somebody who's coming off the bench that's going to work hard off the ball, or at least have a defensive mindset.
Yeah, I never picked up on that Smith Rowe mistake. So many other people did. I was so basking in the 4 goals we'd scored against Newcastle. It's so easy, but you're right to point it out. The defense that has been thin. And thankfully Tomiyasu is very close to being back. Zinchenko, it's hoped that he will be back as well. And Urian Timber, of course, continues to make his recovery. And after the international break, it could be that all 3 of those could be back and in the squad for the game against City, which would be a massive, massive boost. But at the moment, we don't have that. And you're right, the changes that we can make. I suppose Partey's return does change things somewhat. You could bring off, I think it was earlier in the season. It was last season or earlier this season. Definitely last season. There were games where at some points we had Xhaka, Jorginho and Partey all on at the same time when we were trying to see out games towards the end of the season at different points. So it is something that I think we can do with Rice, Partey and Jorginho potentially all coming off the bench. And as you said, that, resting Jorginho is going to be important. And I think that having him maybe to come off the bench to play 10 minutes at the end will help see that game out. I guess we should go to lineups then, and we can start having a look at who we've picked. Jordan, I think we're starting with you. Talk us through your selection, mate.
Yeah, this selection is assuming Martinelli is not fit to start. If he is fit to start, I put Havertz where Vieira is, Trossard at the 9, and we go with that team that played against at West Ham, and I think the team also that played against Porto the first time around. But assuming Martinelli is not fit, this is the lineup I would go with. I thought Vieira looked good, frankly. That in his not preferred position. Well, I think he can play right wing. It's not necessarily his A1. I'm not even sure if he's an 8 or he wants to be a 10 or he's a right wing, but he looked to me as I really want Havertz at the 9, and that was my non-negotiable here. Was Havertz at the 9. I'm personally done with Havertz at the 8 if we can manage it. I think moving him in game if we have to, fine. But if we can get Havertz at the 9, I want him to be there, and then for me, I'll work the lineup around that.
Yeah, I'm interested to see now Bryce's explanation behind Ben Havertz in the 8. So talk us through your team, mate.
It's almost like Jordan said it perfectly. If Martinelli is fit, I want Martinelli on the left wing. Havertz is going to kind of play in that almost like a second striker in terms of that rotating trio that we're seeing with Martinelli, Trossard, and Havertz. When those 3 are playing together, they are just rotating who is playing up top. And it gives us a lot of fluidity in terms of our attacking options. And I think that it makes it really confusing for the defense of our opposition, because if you're marking somebody and they're playing as an attacking midfielder, and then the next thing you know, they're on the wing, and now they're up top, it's a confusing bunch. And our movement has been insane the last 7 games now, ever since the new year. Just absolutely insanity in terms of our movement and our fluidity up front. And I think it makes us a really dangerous team to play against, especially when you have guys like Rice and Odegaard who are kind of pulling the strings in those deeper lying midfield roles, and they can pick out passes. Or Jorginho, when we saw those that ball over the top to Martinelli ran from the left wing across the 18-yard box for an over-the-top through ball, so Havertz could get a nice little tap in. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. So that's why I'm going with that lineup. I love the fluidity. But you said it in the chat, Jorginho cannot start 3 games in 10 days. He's just not at that point. He's not Declan Rice anymore.
Yeah, no, and as I pointed out as well, he is carrying and has carried a foot issue which kept him out of a few games earlier this year. If he does start, I'm not, maybe can't start is a bit too absolute, because you never know. Arteta could prove us all wrong. I would just be very much advised against starting him in 3 games in the space of 10 days. But yeah, the Jorginho, I think, it's been such a solid signing for us, and I can't wait to see what he ends up achieving for us as well. For my team, I've been a bit risky just because of the Jorginho thing, but I kind of want to keep the Rice playing in this advanced role, and so the only other option at the moment, I guess I could have thrown El Neni in. But Partey, I think, of course, who played against Sheffield United, have a half. If he's played a half, then maybe you bring on Jorginho for the second half and split the game between the two of them. But I just really want to see Rice carry on in this advanced position, because I think it is just creating such fantastic opportunities. He's brilliant at bursting into the box with the cutback we saw for Odegaard. He can get into the box himself and score. I'm loving him in this one. This is why I want to see Arsenal in the summer go for a DM rather than an 8, because I think Rice's future is very much into this advanced midfield position, with Odegaard then allowed to be even more advanced and get back more into the positions that we saw him play in during last season, where he was free scoring and scoring plenty of goals. I've gone with Trossard at the moment. I'm just thinking with Porto on Tuesday, even if Martinelli makes the squad, I'm not sure if I'm risking him, just because I want to see. And it's a cut. A cut's are really difficult ones to know and manage, because you don't know how deep it is, how sensitive the area might be to pain, etc. If there was any other further issues that they've now since discovered in the days after that, because it was a really innocuous kick that looked like his ankle had been somewhat tweaked. So, yeah, it's a difficult one. I think I'll just give it a little bit more time to rest. And if you don't even have to play him at all, and you get, you 2, 3, 4 up or whatever against Brentford, which I know we're getting into realms of arrogance, if you like, but then you can play Trossard and you can bring on Nelson instead of Martinelli in the second half. But if you desperately need to bring Martinelli on to get you a goal, because we might be struggling, then he's there for that. The rest of the team picks itself. I guess the only player we haven't talked about at all is Aaron Ramsdale, Jordan, who will start this game. How do you feel about him coming in?
I feel given the opposition, I feel pretty good. I just don't think I think where Raya's exactly. I feel where Raya's technical skills will shine is against a team that will press us in some way. And I'm not saying that there will never be moments where Brentford will press, but that's certainly not what they're coming to the Emirates thinking that they're going to do, is boss us with the press. And so if you were to put Ramsdale in a box and say what he's good at is shot stopping, and where he lacks is maybe an elite level of breaking the press, which I think he does just fine. I don't think he's terrible at it. Then I feel good about that. I feel like I want someone who can stop shots. I think Brentford will have a couple shots, maybe just a couple. If you go by lately statistics, and I feel good about that. I feel like if we were playing a tougher opponent that was seeking to really put us under the cosh, then I would feel just maybe a little bit trepidatious, but still pretty good. Ramsdale's a great keeper. Let's be real. I still feel very good about it.
Bryce Ramsdale coming in. Arteta was asked a fair few questions in his press conference today about his attitude. He said he's been brilliant. He's been really good, really supportive, really pushing everything in training like I expected. And it's a joy to have 2 top goalkeepers in the team. He was also asked about, I think how his kind of mindset is in some ways. And he says one of the toughest things to deal with is for the players who don't have the amount of time that they deserve, not only Aaron, but with many of those. But we have an unbelievable group of players. We try to be straight and explain things and be close to them and give them the support that we want. And then when they have the opportunity at the end, they want to contribute to the team in the best possible way. And that's what Aaron will try to do on Saturday. Is this going to be his last performance in an Arsenal shirt?
Who knows?
Assuming Raya doesn't get injured, do you think this will be his last?
Yes.
Yes? You could stay on the fence if you like, but yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I think it will be if Raya does not get injured. I think that he'll probably want to leave come summer, and he hasn't, we're in the knockout stages of the Champions League. We're out of the FA Cup. Where is he going to play? We're done playing Brentford after this weekend. When? And so I don't see it happening. However, touching on, quotes from Arteta, the reporter which asked, is this, do you have conversations with your players about this is your chance? Like if you do great here, you can play. I remember you talking about the importance of framing questions when you're in press conferences.
Are you about to go in on a journalist in a press conference?
That was what were they thinking? Of course Arteta's going to back his guys and he's going to say, we don't have those conversations. I'm done. That was my tangent. I don't want to go too far into that.
There was also a question about Ivan Toney as well, which he immediately shut down as he would do. Because that's just what he does in presses. If you ask about a player that we're linked to, other than if they're Kylian Mbappe, apparently, he will shut that down. I suppose the difference is with Mbappe is that he is leaving in the summer. Like that's been kind of confirmed. So we know he's going to be leaving PSG. And the questions were more framed around like, should we be in the conversation for that type of player? But being asked straight up on Toney, I guess he's going to kind of pull out the copy and paste of previous answers. But yeah, he was asked about like the conversations. He was asked on if he's pulled them aside to discuss their minutes, and he says you cannot really promise anything. You never know what is going to happen in a 3 weeks or 7 days time. Just I think we have to show the compassion, and they need to feel that we are next to them and we understand where they are. But the reality is as well that this is football. This is a team sport and you have to understand and fulfill the role that you have in the moment. And it might be very different in 3 weeks' time. And Ramsdale's role has changed, dramatically this season. But I think that he's shown in those performances against Brentford early in the season, he's pulled off some big saves in those games. Yes, there were some nervy moments. But I'm confident that he'll come in and we'll hopefully keep another clean sheet. We'll move to predictions. I'm going to ask you for 2 predictions, the Arsenal-Brentford game and the Liverpool-Manchester City game as well. So, Bryce, scoreline and scorers for the Arsenal game, but I won't push you for scorers for City, but just the scoreline for that.
We're gonna go 4-0 to the Arsenal. We're gonna go 2 from Saka, 1 from Havertz, 1 from Odegaard. And we're going to go with a super dramatic Ramsdale save. Just for the fans out there that really love him. And I want his, I said that I doubt he'll play another game. So I want his last game at the Emirates wearing an Arsenal jersey to be something special for him. Because I really do love the guy. I mean, I loved watching his performances last season. It's just that he's not really fitting Arteta's, what Arteta wants right now in terms of distribution and press resistance. He's a great keeper, though. I mean, if we didn't have Raya, I'd be more than happy with Ramsdale.
Absolutely. I think it's well summed up. And a City scoreline?
We're going to go 1-1. We're going to go 1-1 just because I want it. I'm praying for it. I want that to happen. And we're going to go Foden. He's on an absolute tear. And Luis Diaz is in right now too, so we're going to go with a Diaz goal.
Lovely stuff. Jordan, scoreline and scorers for Arsenal and a scoreline for the City game.
Yeah, 3-1 Arsenal. Brentford with 1 shot on goal, 0.1 XG and 1 goal. obviously. Just their only attempt at goal will go in. I think we'll have Odegaard, Trossard, and Havertz on the score sheet. And I think this is finally where we see, for the City game, I think it's finally where we see the injuries catch up to Liverpool and they stop getting bailed out. I mean, I have so many Liverpool friends. It's been daggers watching them win games they shouldn't, or win games with score lines they don't deserve. I feel like this will be a coming back down to earth for them. Although I would prefer a tie. I feel like it will be City definitively by a couple goals.
Yeah, I had it for that as well. I think I put 2-0 City in my predictor this week. I'd love a draw like Bryce. I really would. I think that'd be perfect for us because I'm going to watch it and just enjoy it. And I think that I'll take the positives from whatever happens. If Liverpool win, great. City have dropped points. If Man City win, means we can go to City, try and win. If we do, it's in our hands, and that in itself is really exciting. So, and if it's a draw and you can go to City and win again, it's in your hands. So it's very, very interesting to see what might happen in that game. But I think it's one that Arsenal fans, for once, I think can actually watch a game between our rivals and actually just enjoy it, because any outcome, there is something to take from an Arsenal perspective in a positive way. In terms of my score for the Arsenal game, I'm going to go 3-0 with a Ramsdale clean sheet on his last performance. Would be great to see, especially for his value in the market. It'd be good for that. In terms of goal scorers, well, the Ben White screamer has been achieved. So we've got to kind of change things up a little bit now. And I've only realised in the last 2 minutes that I was going to have to change this up. So I'm thinking about what becomes the new TGT prediction. So I'm not actually going to come up with it now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it to you in the chat box and the comment sections. What needs to be our new TGT weekly prediction? And my favourite one, we will have that until, of course, that gets fulfilled as a TGT. It can be anything. It could be a screamer. It can be a hat-trick. It could be an overhead kick from somebody. Anything like you like. But anything you can come up with, be as inventive, but as realistic, because it has to kind of happen like Ben White's did. So we have to try and come up with that. But I'm going to go with a 3-0 win with a Ben White screamer, because I guess we've still got to do it for now whilst we're coming up with a new one. And I'll go with Kai Havertz to get a couple of goals as well, just to continue that and to really help my bet out as well with Potsy. So, yeah, that would be much appreciated. Anyway, thank you to those that have tuned into the chat box today. I've been throwing up some of your predictions throughout the end of today's show as well. Bryce, thank you for coming on, and please do shout out your event that you wanted to do so.
Yeah, I was just reminding you. I was like, let me plug.
So I got it. Don't worry, mate.
All right, good. So anybody that's in the Discord and is going to the Philly game in July 31st against Liverpool, I am going to be trying to set up an event. Oh, Jordan, you're going? I already got my tickets.
Do you have
your tickets?
I don't have tickets yet, but I fully plan to be there.
Good. Perfect. Yeah. Try to get your tickets. Mine weren't too horrible. I'm going to be down. I think I'm 19 rows up and at a corner flag. I think it was like $315 a ticket or something like that.
Honestly, mental.
Yeah, I know, right? But they usually don't.
It's a bargain.
Yeah, they don't.
It's a bargain. You guys, in terms of not being able to come over and that, it's becoming close to an airplane ticket at this stage, anyway. So
it really is. No, my airplane ticket is cheaper than the game. Like I was paying $220 for my plane ticket to Philadelphia. Anyways, so if you're in the Discord, message me, send me a DM. We're going to try to get something together where all of us are either going to meet at a bar or a restaurant, or maybe we'll do the most American thing ever and we'll tailgate an English football match. we'll break up the grills and the coolers.
It sucks that I don't think I'm going to be there, and it really sucks. 1 year I will be getting to a US preseason tour or another preseason tour somewhere else, and we'll try on that. But whilst in my stead, Bryce is going to be setting up a TGT. And let's say not just for the Discord, but for any listener of the channel, of course, is going to be there. They can get in touch with Bryce. But yeah, if you're a TGT listener, get involved.
If you're not in the Discord, you can find me on Twitter at BryceConnor18. Okay.
Go. Thanks, Bryce. And I look forward to seeing some photos, hopefully, of a successful event. Jordan, who may be there as well. But thanks, Jordan, for coming on. Tell people they can find you, mate.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Jordan Lips Fitness. We do fitness stuff over there if you guys want to come hang out.
There you go. Lovely stuff. You can find myself at Tom Cantor Media and at the Gooner Talk TV on socials. Please do subscribe There will be another show, actually. I say show. It's actually me just talking to camera for about 10 minutes going out in an hour and a half. So look out for that. It's not the most enjoyable of topics. It all makes sense when you see it. It's based on some things that went down today, but give that a watch. I recorded that just before we came live here, and that's going to go out a little bit later. And please do tune in tomorrow morning, of course, once again at 8 a.m. for the next update. We'll be talking about the press conference, looking ahead to the Saturday game. And I'm actually doing an interview with a former Arsenal player in London tomorrow. So look out for that when that eventually drops on football.london. So that interview, not sure if it's going to be dropping tomorrow, but it will be out well before the Porto game. So make sure you look out for that one. But yes, have a fantastic evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you happen to be. And thank you again to Bryce and Jordan for being my fantastic guest today. And we will see you all very soon. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy. And as always, up the Arsenal.